Alright. Hey everybody, I'm Joey from Rockin' Saurians, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a very simplistic Leopard Gecko tank. It's not as aesthetically appealing as a naturalistic setup with sand and whatnot, but in my opinion it is a million times easier to do, a million times easier to upkeep, and it's just a lot safer for the animal. Leopard geckos are desert-dwelling animals, but when you keep them on sand like a lot of people do, they have a chance of ingesting it, and it causes impaction, which is where they can't pass it through the digestive tract. And as a result, they'll actually end up basically choking to death. They can't pass the nutrients, and it's resulted in a lot of fatalities. So it's just a lot safer to go this route. What I have here is a 20 long tank. So it's about 30 inches long by about 12 inches wide by about 12 inches high. This one's nifty in that the lid actually slides into place, but it'll work with basically any tank. A 20 long is ideal for an adult, although you can house them in a 10 gallon if you have to. I wouldn't recommend it. I'd always go a little bit bigger, as that's better. Smaller tank for a smaller animal, but as an adult, this is an ideal tank. So first, what we do, I have just regular paper towel here, and I lay it out in the tank. It takes a couple different sheets and a little practice with the layering, because it's a little odd, if you will. They don't fit perfectly, so you kind of have to manipulate it a little bit. But once you get the hang of it, it starts to fall together. Alright, so I have my paper towel layered in here, and that's going to be the substrate now. That's going to be what he crawls on, what he lives on, what he eats on. Very easy to spot clean. Whenever you see it dirty, you just change it out with some new paper towel. Very, very cost effective, very cheap, very safe, so it's the best way to go. So this is my little buddy Gobi. He is a roughly 8-year-old leopard gecko, Murphy's patternless leopard gecko. Okay, buddy. So he's definitely a bit of an older fellow here. He's having a little bit of an issue with gaining some weight lately. He's been on a little bit of a hunger strike, but he's a little finicky like that. So yeah, these guys are great reptiles, great beginner animals. Very easy to care for, very hardy. As I said, this guy here is 8 years old. So they have a lifespan that's average 10 to 15, good care, but I know of one man whose leopard gecko is 28, and I've heard up to 30, so they can live a very long time. They don't get much bigger than this. This is about an adult. He's about 9-10 inches long, although typically anywhere from 7 to 11 inches is within regular range. This guy is very, very easy to care for, and they're just very personable animals, so they make fantastic first-time pets, or even for an advanced keeper like myself, they're just fascinating little guys. They never get old, so a great choice. What I have here is a Sterilite tub. I keep a bunch of these on hand for whenever I need to clean or move an animal to a separate tank, whether it be health reasons, because he might have a parasite or something like that, or if he's just not doing well. If I need to clean a tank, any time I need to put an animal in a smaller tank, I use these. What I did was I cut out the lid with a little X-Acto knife, and I hot glued some screen in, just regular mesh like you put on a screen door. It works very well. As you can see, it makes a good little quarantine tank. It's just about the right size for one of these guys. So let's put him in there. Voila. So now we have our paper towel down. Underneath the tank, I have a standard heat mat from ZooMed. This is just about the ideal temperature that he needs to be kept at. They say 80-ish, high 80s to low 90s is ideal. I generally think 90 is perfect. So on my cool side of the tank, it ranges to about 75-ish room temperature, up to 80, and then on the warm side, which is where the heat mat goes, underneath the tank, just like that, that'll boost up to about 95. Now, of course, you're always going to want to have some kind of thermometer to check the temperature to make sure it's safe. Very necessary, but ideally, this is typically what you need for most homes. The temperature range is typically right about where you need it. This gives it a little extra push to be about the right temperature, because these guys are desert animals. They need a little bit more heat. And they're also, they get a lot of their heat through their belly. As you can see, he crawls on the ground. So it's best to have the heater under the glass on the bottom, but always make sure the tank's a little bit elevated so that heat can escape out the belly. So I have here a cave. I believe it's Exoterra. You know, buy them at any pet store. my guys love these things. They use them all the time, so I use them a lot. I usually tuck that away on the warm side right over the heat pad. It gives him the option, if he's feeling cold, to go warm up on that side of the tank. Now what I have here is a cardboard strip. It came with some packaging. A lot of the time you can use household items for these guys. Like I said, simplistic enclosure, very easy to set up, but very cost effective. So this I can put right here, and it provides him a nice little tunnel to climb in. My leopard geckos love these, and I have a few, so they love these. Again, it's on the hot side here. Heat mat's on the wrong side right now. Typically goes on this side, but it can go from the hot side to the cool side if he wants to, and it can completely remain hidden, so it's fantastic for that. Now I have a little ceramic food dish here. I'll put his mealworms in here. Occasionally I feed crickets and I just pour them in a cage, but staple for me is mealworms. They're just a bit easier to manage, a bit cheaper too, and they like them, so it works. I put a little bit of calcium powder in there so that when he needs the supplementation, he can get it on its own. I always keep the water and the food on the cold side of the cage. That way it doesn't get overheated, and thing with heat mats, you never want to put your water dish right above the heat mat. The reason being, it'll actually cause a stress crack in the glass and it'll fracture. That's actually happened to this tank from the previous owner. I got this one used, so you can find a lot of good deals that way. But yeah, just be careful to make sure the water and the food always stay on the cold side of the tank, the side without the heat. So what I have here is the water dish with a little bit of water in it, so I don't want to slosh it around too much. It's just a little plastic bowl. Like I said, any pet store typically carries them. A lot of people put them in right after they buy them. I would do a quick hand wash with some soap and a sponge just to make sure. I actually keep a sponge in my reptile room. It's got a soft yellow pad for whatever needs to be cleansed delicately, and then a harsh green side for whatever needs to be really scoured. And it's strictly for reptiles for sanitation reasons. You don't want to use your kitchen sponge on a reptile's tank, it's not wise. So this is the bare minimum setup. Make sure there's water in there at all times. I've actually had no problem just using regular tap water. No issues whatsoever. Although if you feel it's necessary, you can treat it. You can buy a conditioner at the pet store that'll treat the water, get the chlorine out, make it completely safe if you have any concerns. But yeah, this is basically the very, very bare minimum simplistic setup. Very cheap. If you want to go through a cost, this is $1 at the dollar store. You can find something like this. I believe this was 10 plus 3 plus another 3. So for 16, 17 bucks, not including the tank, you just finished a little internal setup that'll house them for a long time. So let's get Gobi back in the tank here. Now these guys will drop their tails if you frighten them, and they do grow back, but they generally don't grow back nice. They're very bulbous, very unappealing. So you want to try and be careful with them. You never grab them by the tail, never rough handle them. See, this guy's very calm. He's used to humans. He just kind of sits on their hand and chills out. But yeah, with regular handling, these guys become very tame. Later on, I went to a video for care, but this is just setting up. So as you can see, size relation to the tank. This is the perfect size for a single adult. Now, you never, ever, ever house males together. They will fight. Generally, you shouldn't house males and females together either, because they will breed, and that can cause stress on the female, especially if you don't want the eggs or you don't have a way to take care of them. You can house multiple females together. This type of setup, at the most, would house 2. I've heard people that house 3 in a tank this size. I wouldn't recommend it. It's generally not safe. If you can help it, I would house all your animals solitary. I've got a rack system behind me you can't see right now. All of my reptiles are kept solitary. The reason being competition for food. They can have accidents where they accidentally bite each other. They can also have aggression issues where one will deem itself dominant and fight the other one off. So it's just safer to do it one at a time. If you have the space, that's the way you should do it. If you don't, do whatever you want, it's your animal, but I would recommend solitary. If you don't have the room or the space for another one, just don't get it. Don't get an animal you can't provide for. But yeah, so this is a setup for him. It's cleaning day right now, so a lot of my stuff's actually in the wash right now, soaking in some part bleach, part water solution. But typically I have some fake plants that I kind of line against the back here. I actually have 1 or 2 behind me. It's a lot cheaper instead of going to the pet store for those. Go to the dollar store. You can buy these little suction cups. You can get like 10 of them for $1, and you just take out the hook. So now you have the suction cup, and you wedge a plant through it, and then stick it into the glass. So, 1 second. Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. This is my crested geckos, but it'll work for an example. See what I've done. Plant from the dollar store, wash it off again in soap and water, and make sure it rinses thoroughly with a little suction cup on the end, and this will stick to the glass. And for $1.10 for the cup, I just got a plant that at the store would probably cost $4 or $5. So it's just a lot more effective to do this. Also, you can use wood you can buy at the store, pet store or hardware store. I brush it off to make sure there's no sawdust on it. I wouldn't recommend using wood from outside. It can have parasites, mites, just nasty things you don't want them to have to deal with. But it's very easy to find driftwood, stuff like that. The fish section, you can generally find fake acrylic wood, or you can just go and buy sandblasted wood at your reptile section or pet store. It works just as well. But yeah, there you have it. So we'll put the lid on this guy, and he'll be good to go for the rest of his adult life. So hope that helped. Feel free to drop me comments on the comment section if you have any questions that you need answered. Like I said, if I get enough requests, I could do another video kind of going more in depth about their care. I've kept this guy, like I said, 8 years. I have a couple others going on 4, 5, and 6 years. So I definitely have experience with these guys, and I definitely know how to take care of them, and I can help anybody out. So drop me a line.